Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to My Hero Academia Season 3, Episode 18. I think Episode 18. Let me check. Yes, Episode 18. Okay, so, sorry for this being late again, and I am going to say right away, the next episode's going to be late as well, because this weekend I am planning on going to something else. If something changes, though, I'll let you know, of course. So yeah, we have another episode of My Hero, and we're still in the provisional license exam. And so I'm curious as to where this is going to go. We have a good number of Class 1A already passing, even ones I didn't think were going to. But we've still got plenty who have not finished their fights and are still kind of in trouble. One of which is Izuku, which surprises me. Now, Izuku was one of the ones I thought was going to be a shoo-in to win, but thinking about it, Izuku has lost big matches and stuff before. He lost the UA Sports Festival, for example. The thing, though, here is, yeah, he did lose that, and that was the last big thing. I mean, obviously, there was stuff that happened afterwards, but that was the last big thing that he needed to win. Since he lost that, I would think they'd want him to win this one to kind of balance it out, to show that he is able to win something, even with his powers not fully under his control yet, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure where they're going to take it. So, we'll just have to see. I would love him to win and to continue on, but there's no real evidence that he necessarily will or won't. We just have to wait. I mean, obviously, for those of you who read the manga and all, you already know, but I don't. So yeah, we are going to get on with this, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I already mentioned that, yeah, this weekend it'll probably be late again. And I do apologize for that. I apologize that that's been happening, like, the past couple weeks, and now again this week. But it's not really something I can just help, because there's just been a lot going on lately. Which, I mean, I'm kind of happy for. I'm happy that there's been stuff happening in my life, and I've been enjoying things outside of just doing the normal stuff I do. And I love doing YouTube. I love doing YouTube. I love doing these videos. I love watching other people's videos on YouTube. But at the same time, I do like to do other stuff, believe it or not. I actually do like to get out of the house. I'm not an outdoor type of girl, but I do like to get out. I do like to hang out with people elsewhere, inside or outside. This past weekend was all outside stuff. I went to 2 different picnics 2 days in a row. Both of them centered around the transgender community, but still. And then, the weekend before that, I mean, yeah, it's just, I have stuff going on all the time now, it seems. But it's not going to be every weekend, of course. Now, this weekend, I do have my board game night on Saturday. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else going on. And the weekend after, to my knowledge, I don't have anything planned. Anything could come up, though. I don't know. We'll see. In the meantime, we should probably just get to this, because I do have other stuff to record today. And after I finish all of that, my friend is planning on taking me to do some more driving practice. So, yeah. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play, because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I've talked about before how I love the character development of characters like Bakugo and Izuku and others in this show. Characters who have grown so much and become not different people from when the show started, but they've changed to such a degree that they're almost unrecognizable. But in a good way, because you see the gradual development as the series goes on. I love it when a show can do that. Other shows have done it too. Other shows that I adore, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That one did it with Greed, for example. Greed was a huge example of amazing progressive development. Even Edward Elric from Brotherhood progressed and grew a lot, not just physically. But My Hero Academia has had some of the best and most consistently well-written character growth. And I think the biggest reason for that is because these characters come across as relatable. You can understand their struggles. You can understand their feelings. You understand all of these different sides. Like, you don't just understand Izuku, having been given this gift and trying to make the most of it. You understand Bakugo as well. Someone who was, like, lesser than you suddenly rising up in the ranks and surpassing you might be a little frustrating, sure. I'm sure a lot of people would feel that, especially like in the workplace, for example. If you've been at a workplace for like a while and some new person comes in and just starts doing extremely well and surpasses you, yeah, you're going to be a little upset. You can understand. You don't necessarily agree with everything that Bakugo has said and done, but you understand his point of view. And this kind of goes with all of the characters. They all come off as relatable, likable, to a degree, and as someone you can understand. And because of that, when they do the development in the show, when I believe Horikoshi is the name of the mangaka who wrote My Hero, but either way, when the creator and all, I think it's Horikoshi, when he develops these characters, it's the fact that it is gradual is important. He doesn't just like throw on like, oh, this character is just going to get a big boost all of a sudden, just going to get this really huge moment of growth. No, that doesn't happen in this series. That's like a Dragon Ball Z tactic, where the character's just like, oh, we're just going to get some random power-up all of a sudden that really isn't explained, and it's just kind of like so haphazardly forced on the character. No, it's nothing like that. Every time one of our characters in this show gets better, it's shown as a progressive thing. They don't just like start like at level 1 and suddenly reach level 2. No, it's like you see them through levels 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so on and so forth, until they get to level 2. You see every step of the way. You see how they progressively get better, too. You see their training. You see how each interaction with the villains they have makes them stronger and makes them understand how to do things better and how they need to make themselves stronger, more versatile, etc. We see that with so many characters in this episode. We see how Kaminari has grown to utilize the support course in order to adapt his quirk in a way that focuses it, which is something he drastically needed because his quirk is kind of wild and untamed, and if he releases too large of a shock at once, it can hurt just anything and anyone around him. But with that focused blast, it's a lot more controlled, and he's able to not hurt his friends. So it's very useful, especially if he wants to become a pro hero. Like, he's not going to be able to do that if he's hurting innocent people who just happen to be around, or hostage victims or stuff. With this more controlled, focused attack, he's able to do what he needs to do without causing casualties to anyone around him, which is important. We see how Bakugo has grown in this episode. He's a lot less aggressive towards Izuku when he finds out Izuku also passed. And on top of that, he actually straight up compliments him. Like, That's something that hasn't happened before. He's acknowledged Izuku's power before, but he straight up compliments him. That's insane. And then there's Aoyama. And this is something that I really want to talk about here. Because while I've raved on and on about how Bakugo's development is phenomenally done, I really want to talk about Aoyama here. Aoyama appears in the series as this really eccentric, kind of weird and goofy, and extremely self-centered type of character. He has this, like, almost comically over-exaggerated view of himself. He thinks he's amazing. He thinks he's fabulous and wonderful. And it comes across as kind of cheesy. But at the same time, you see all of the other characters around him and how they're being portrayed and how they're being built upon, and you wonder what's going on with him. You know that Horikoshi is doing this on purpose, that Aoyama there has to be something more to him. All of these other characters have proven that they're not just what you see on the outside, that they're not just the skin level of their basic tropes and whatnot. Bakugo isn't just your average, ordinary, angry hothead. No, he has a lot more depth to him. Izuku isn't just your run-of-the-mill underdog character. No, there's a lot more than that. And so on and so forth. And with Aoyama, for a long time, all we really saw was what we saw on the outside. But as we go along, we're starting to realize that's what he's projecting. That's all we've been seeing because that's all he's been showing. We can't see the depth of a character if they're not willing to show it to us. You know what I mean? Aoyama, during the attack in the forest, showed that he had more to him. He was terrified of what was going on, yet he still acted despite that fear. Do you know what the definition of courage is? Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what you know is right despite that fear. Courage is stepping forward and acting, even when you're afraid. And it kind of calls back to the second episode of the show. In the second episode of Season 1, All Might tells Izuku that he hides a lot of fear behind that smile. That he smiles to mask the fear that he feels every day. Aoyama's wide, extravagant, weird personality is his smile. It's his mask. He's been hiding who he truly was, his insecurities, his fears, even his desires. Because he always felt like he wasn't on the same level as everyone else. As we see in this episode, his dream is to be recognized as being on that same level as the others. He wants to be recognized as being equal. Despite the fact that he's a little weird, despite the fact that his quirk is kind of strange, he wants to be seen as just as valid as anyone else. And that's a perfectly understandable and believable dream. To some degree, all of us want that. We want to be viewed as just as valid as our co-workers, as our fellow students, as just our fellow people in general. We want to be treated with equality. We want to have the same rights as others. These are big issues in the world today. Of course, people want to have those equal opportunities, those equal rights, equal treatment. Yeah, of course. We want to be able to view each other as the same, as being all worthy of the same love, the same opportunities, everything. So Aoyama's his dream here is very relatable, and it develops him from just some overly exaggerated goof to someone who's been hiding behind a mask of self-centered overexuberance. And it takes him and turns him into someone who just wants to fit in. And it's almost kind of tragic that this, despite wanting to fit in, he's kind of making himself an outcast. He's kind of doing the opposite. Unintentionally, I'm sure, but... Or maybe it is intentional. Maybe he feels he doesn't deserve it. But this episode showed the courage he has inside of him. It showed him, despite the fear he felt, acting as a true hero. He was willing to sacrifice himself in this exam, in this test. He was willing to let himself be eliminated just to allow Ida to move on. He acted as a distraction. And it would have worked if not for his friends, his classmates, also seeing the beam. And you heard the gurgling in his stomach. He was using his beam for quite a long time, just in a straight row, quite a long time at once. And when he does that, it causes him to get sick. It causes him to get nauseous. Or as he put it, it makes his tummy hurt. He was not only sacrificing his ability to move on, but he was also sacrificing his physical, strength, basically. I don't know if I'm sure you guys who are watching have had stomach aches. They can be pretty debilitating if they're bad enough. We don't know the exact extent of how bad the stomach aches he gets are. But if you've ever had a really bad stomach ache, it can pretty much cripple you from doing almost anything. Because you'll just be in constant pain, and doing anything will just completely exacerbate it. So he was willing to put himself through that pain and to have himself be eliminated just to save Ida. That is the sign of a hero. Self-sacrifice. And I know this might be a little controversial, but I have to say it here because it's related. There is a verse in the Bible. I don't remember the exact book and verse number it is. But it goes like this. There is no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. The ultimate act of love is self-sacrifice. And it's something I've always adored. I talked about it in Season 7 of MLP during my reactions to that, which were on the old channel. There was the Campfire Tales episode. My favorite story from that episode was Mistmain's, because I love the concept of self-sacrifice and how Mistmain was willing to sacrifice her beauty to save the people of her village and her friend who had gone bad. She sacrificed what was seen as a very big part of who she was, just to help others. That is self-sacrifice. Even if it's not like laying down your life, self-sacrifice of any kind is extremely noble. And what Aoyama did here was a great example of that. And honestly, this episode had a lot going for it, but Aoyama was the star. He shined. He truly shined here. And like I said, Horikoshi, or again, I hope that's the name of the creator of My Hero, the creator doesn't make these kinds of mistakes with the characters. All of these characters are given their times to shine and are given proper development. which means that eventually Mineta will too. Now, Mineta's had a couple of moments to shine. I will acknowledge that. But he hasn't really had that big, grounded development that has built him into more than just his stereotype. All of these characters have had those big stereotypes attached to them, those stereotypical character tropes, and Mineta hasn't really gotten out of that, despite his moments that he had to shine, such as when he and Sarah were taking on Midnight in the finals. Even despite moments like that, he never really had the chance to really become something else, to really be given that depth that he desperately needs. But I honestly do believe that it's very possible that at some point Mineta will become a lot more intriguing as a character, that he will get that depth, that he will get that development built upon him. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen soon or whatnot, but if it does happen, and it's really good, then I will be impressed and I will acknowledge it. And I've heard that apparently Horikoshi considers Mineta his favorite character, which is honestly very disappointing to me. But that's just because of I don't know where Mineta's going. Horikoshi, I would assume, does. So maybe that his opinion on Mineta being his favorite character is because of that. Because otherwise, I don't see it, to be honest. Mineta, at this point, is absolute scum. He's one of the most despicable and hateable characters in all of animation. Seriously. But pushing that aside, this episode just did a lot of great things. The only thing I question is the fact that all of Class 1A did pass. Yes, 20 out of 100 people may not seem like a lot to some, but that's literally 20%. That's a good amount of students. There were, 1,500 students there in total? And all of UA's Class 1A passed? That seems a little bit much to me. I like the way that they handled it. I do. But at the same time, it almost seems kind of cheap. It seems really cheap to have all of Class 1A pass. Now, it was only the first test. So there will most likely be some eliminations from 1A. In fact, I'd say it's pretty much guaranteed. But still, I don't know, it just seems like way too much. Maybe that's just me, though. Maybe that's just me. Either way, I would like to hear your thoughts on it. Tell me your thoughts on this episode, on all of the great character development, on Aoyama specifically, and of course, about the result of the first test. Tell me your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.